It's time. We're finally going to watch, after months, after so many hours in this game, we're finally going to watch the Vaati Vidya lore videos for Bloodborne. I cannot wait to understand what the hell is happening in this game that I have spent 100 hours pouring through item descriptions, trying to piece together relationships between NPCs and bosses and the timeline between both the main game and the DLC. Apparently, the Vaati Vidya video is going to, thanks for the follow, Alex, is going to cover the main game. This video is from 8 years ago. We're going to do the 11-minute one, and then right afterwards, the 31-minute one, because the 11-minute one is apparently better for the overall picture, and the 31-minute one is better for actually explaining details. It's time. I figured before we get into it, I would actually show you guys, like, talk to you guys about the notebook worth of questions that I've written down. And maybe I could, that way you guys know, like, what questions are on my mind, what I'm hoping to find answers for. Hopefully the video can answer some of them. Here are my questions from the main game. I'll ignore the DLC questions for now. Here are my questions from the main game that I pray that Vaati Vidya will answer for me. First and foremost, I have major questions. There's two stories happening. There's the story that happens in the first 30 seconds of the game. And then there's the story once we are inside of the contract. My first question is, who are we in the first 30 seconds of the game? And what the is going on? Then you have the whole rest of the story. But what's happening in the first 30 seconds? Who is that person? Who am I in that situation? I have lots of questions. I have overall lore, like world building questions, like how did old Yharnam and Yharnam and all of that jazz get specifically to the situation that it's in right now? Like, how did the world become this way? Is it just a result of the, like, Menses ritual, which I'm pretty sure I understand? Or was there some other inciting incident? Who made Janice and why? Janice is my name for the doll. Who made Janice and why did they make Janice? I don't think I know the answers to any of these questions. I'm curious about the timeline because the overall timeline is a little bit confusing to me. We have German and the workshop. We have Healing Church. We have Bergenwerth. We have the Holy Blades. I think I could maybe try and piece those into an order, but I'm not confident about that at all. This is Ryan's notebook of mad ramblings. This is true. My next question is, Janice, will you marry me? The question after that is, what the fuck is the moon presence? It's the final boss in the game, and I don't know what it is. It's Alien from the Alien movies, kind of. It's kind of a demogorgon. I don't know what it is. It has something to do with the moon. What happened? I have written here, what happens if my grandma lives, aka that old lady that we saved for a second inside of the chapel, but then we also got her killed right after we saved her. What happens if she lives? Does anything happen? Who is the white lady with the blood on her outside of Murgo's wet nurse boss battle? Who can I trust in this game? And why is the answer no one? Also, one final question. Actually, I have multiple questions. What are Pale Bloods? What are contracts? What are Dark Beasts and what make them this way? Final question, exclamation blood. What's the deal with all this blood? All right, let's just watch it.
Your character arrived in Yharnam from a faraway
time.
land, seeking a cure for some unnamed illness. You sign a contract, take blood,
Audio?
and become a hunter of the dream, tasked with
No
ending
audio.
the spreading
Audio?
scourge of beasts. Like many hunters before you,
Oh my god, my headphones died? Wait. There is audio, but my headphones died? 1 second. This is the 11-minute video first for the overall picture.
your character arrived in Yharnam from a faraway land, seeking a cure for some unnamed illness. You sign a contract, take blood, and become a hunter of the dream, tasked with ending the spreading scourge of beasts. Like many hunters before you, your consciousness is now bound to the hunter's dream, and you are able to project yourself into the waking world of Yharnam. At the end of the game, the nameless moon presence descends. This is a great one, an elder being that beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream.
Okay, that is a new piece of lore for me. The Great Ones beckoned the hunters? And what the hunter stream? Started the hunter stream?
That beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream.
Conceived it.
And you're here now asking why? Well, let me tell you the story up until this point. It all began in the tombs below Yharnam. Once, what we now call Chalice Dungeons contained an entire civilization. It consisted of the Temerians and the Great Ones. The Temerians were a humanoid race, but the Great Ones were far from it. Each Great One is bizarre, unique.
The Great Ones together did not beckon the hunters. The Great One in particular did. That makes a lot of sense. The gods themselves are called Great Ones. The greatest of the Great Ones is called the Great One. Perfectly simple. Thank you, Miyazaki, for the very clear lore. Is the volume okay, chat? Hi, Alex. Welcome in.
And trying to pin down their motivations as a species or individually is fairly futile. The only thing that's clear about them is this. The Great Ones, like any other race, want to reproduce.
Vaati Vidya has a very calming voice.
But for them, it's difficult. Each Great One appears to be truly unique, and since that makes mating impossible, they impregnate their subjects instead.
We got to breeding so quickly. We're a minute and a half in, and the lore of Bloodborne is about breeding? There's nowhere in my book is breeding a question mark. What? Pregnant, by the way?
Ring of Betrothal states that in the age of the Great Ones, certain Temerians were permitted to bear a special child.
This is Murgo's mom, right? Frontsy question. We never fought Murgo's mom.
This union, certain Temerians...
This is the person I was just talking about. Yes, you murdered her. I did murder her outside of the room where her baby died, question mark. She is a Chalice dungeon boss. Wait. Oh, that's interesting. She's a Chalice dungeon boss. Okay, I'm going to stop pausing.
Were permitted to bear a special child. This union was a blood contract, our first reference to the blood of the Great Ones. Most of these births failed, but some didn't.
Uh-huh.
At some point, the Great Ones ascended. We know this because...
That is also a new one? That is also a Chalice dungeon? I was going to ask if you killed her. I skimmed through the VOD. I did kill her. Yeah. Okay.
There are multiple references to some Great Ones being left behind.
Does Murgo's mom have a name? So far the idea is Great Ones impregnate certain beings in order to have children. Her name is Queen Yharnam. Her name is Murg Mom. Queen Yharnam. Interesting. The story is they impregnate humans. Those births are not particularly successful, or they are don't always have a great chance of happening, but they can create new Great Ones.
Ones moved on to the Nightmare Realm, and the Temerians were left alone, destined to watch over the physical remains of the slumbering Great Ones. In time, the Temerian civilization fell to the plague of beasts. Perhaps it was something in the blood. Eventually, a group of Bergenwerth scholars stumbled upon this place, and the events of Bloodborne were set into motion. The scholars discovered the old blood of the Great Ones, a miraculous substance that made...
The timeline. Thumeria is an old group. Bergenwerth scholars discover the blood of the Great Ones.
Made their dream of evolution a reality.
They are obviously...
The School of Bergenwerth was headed by Master Willem.
Enamored.
An ambitious, yet cautious man, Willem desired to ascend to a higher plane of existence, and believed that the knowledge of the Great Ones would lead him there. On the other hand, one of Willem's associates, Lawrence, believed that mankind could ascend through use of the old blood, the blood of the Great Ones. Lawrence seems headstrong and rash, where Willem advised caution. When we inspect the skull after defeating Vicar Amelia, this is the conflict we see.
No, but you
This is the incredible cutscene. Okay, this is Fear the Old Blood.
will never listen. I tell you, I will not forget our adage.
Lawrence tells Willem he will always fear the Old Blood, yet he goes on to found the Healing Church, a faith built upon the miraculous Old Blood. Meanwhile, Willem remains behind at Bergenwerth and decides to pursue alternate methods to ascension.
There's really like two kind of schools, no pun intended, of thought. One school and one church of thought. It seems like the lore emotes in the chat. It seems like there are two methods. There is like ascension via knowledge, and then there is using the old blood to sort of evolve yourself. Lawrence heads one of those ideas and creates the Healing Church potentially. And Willem heads the other one, and the Bergenwerth scholars attempt to find like eldritch truth that way.
Lawrence and his church were central to the power in Yharnam. Perhaps they even built the place. Blood ministers doled out the miraculous healing blood to the populace, and the city evolved to reflect that. People came from far and wide, just like you did, for the chance to be healed. The Yharnamites, whose doors you knock on, are quite arrogant and proud,
They are.
and dislike outsiders. However, after the old blood was introduced into the populace, people began turning into beasts.
You stop right there. Not
So-
an inch closer.
In response, the church founded the Hunter's Workshop, with
British
Gurman
lore.
at its head. Gurman's methods defined beast hunting. He abandoned the notion of armor and dressed instead for speed and agility. With a firearm in one hand and adaptable melee weapon in the other, the forces of the workshop became the city's primary defense against the beastly threat. Perhaps the workshop was even a secret organization, for item descriptions note that they worked under the cover of night, and the location of the workshop was certainly difficult to find.
Incredible.
In time,
This is exactly what I was looking for so far. Super broad timelines, how factions came to be, and what their roles were versus each other.
the workshop would be abandoned in favor of the black and white church hunters. Perhaps Gurman's workshop failed in keeping the scourge a secret. Perhaps the church required a more intimidating approach. Whatever the case, the hunters were fighting for something, and it wasn't just to keep the populace safe. Turns out the Hunter's Workshop was just one of 3 branches of the church. The others were the choir and Mikolash's school of Menses.
So choir, hunters, and then Menses. We know what Menses does. We're pretty sure. I believe the Menses ritual is what is like basically perpetuating the scourge and the nighttime, I think. The choir I still sort of barely understand.
The choir existed to continue the work that began at Bergenwerth, namely the pursuit of insight by way of communion with the Great Ones.
And then reaching the
The
cosmos.
choir's work eventually led them to an audience with Abritas, a left-behind Great One. The School of Menses was, as the name implies, devoted to research and learning, and while item descriptions state that Menses was allied with the Healing Church, in our adventures it becomes clear that the school is responsible for most of the problems in this world.
Yeah.
In Bloodborne, it's difficult to point to a main antagonist, but if I had to, I'd point to Mikolash, who is the head of the School of...
Interesting. Vaati would say Mikolash is the main antagonist. Wait, that's the wrong button. Shit.
Some say cosm.
Mikolash is the main antagonist, if you had to point to one. Mika shit? Yeah. Okay.
of Menses.
Okay, I'm following.
Somehow, Mikolash got his hands on the umbilical cord of a Great One. These cords are very important. For simplicity's sake, think of these umbilical cords as powerful relics
some
that
say
enable
cosm.
contact with the Great Ones. There are 3 of these umbilical cords in-game, and they
Although technically there's 4.
They are used by 3 of the main characters.
The real lore question, is it Kos or Kosum? Kos or Kosum?
One cord was found by Mikolash, head of the School of Menses. One cord is held by Willem back in Bergenwerth, and another cord went to German of the Hunter's Workshop. Mikolash used his cord to perform a great ritual. It ripped a lecture hall of Menses into the Nightmare Realm so that they could be granted audience with a being named Murgo. It is
Okay, I need to read that. I need to hear that one more time. Hold up. There are 4. One had not been found at this point, or he just forgot. It makes sense. I mean, this is 8 years ago. Makes sense. So the Menses ritual, hold up.
believed that they could be granted or ripped a lecture hall of Menses into the Nightmare Realm so that
So Mikolash does a ritual to rip the whole lecture hall building into the Nightmare of Menses to get audience with Murgo, who is a great one. For what end?
they could be granted audience with a being named Murgo. It is believed that Murgo is the child of a great one, birthed through Yharnam, the Tumerian queen. There is little known about his power, his origins, or his significance, so just know for now that Menses wanted audience with Murgo, but that this audience came at a great cost. A note in the village reads, "The Menses ritual must be stopped,
Yeah,
lest we all become beasts."
I have that exact thing. Menses ritual must be stopped before we all become beasts.
Willem used his cord to, and I quote, elevate his being and thoughts to those of a great one by
Yep.
lining his brain with eyes. In the lake below him, we come across Rom, the vacuous spider. Many descriptions in-game tell us that this spider hides all manner of rituals. In particular, though, it seems that the spider is holding back the effects of the Menses ritual. When Rom is gone, a blood moon descends, blurring the line between beast and man.
So Willem is a hero? Rom is holding back the forces of the, like, scourge of beasts? I don't know that Willem's a hero. I don't know that that makes Willem a hero. Rom is a good guy, question mark? I think that's clear as day. I think Rom I loved Rom. I think Rom is a good guy, but because Rom is a spider, we just say, "Oh, Rom must be bad," and then we.
After this event, we find the path to Yahar'gul open, so our character can go through
I'm sorry, Vaati, you forgot the Z in Yharnamites. That's how it's pronounced. Sorry.
and silence the harrowing cries of Murgo, the infant Great One.
Less doesn't mean before, does it? No, it means unless, but it does, like, I think lest means unless, but it does, like, insinuate causality.
The third
Ram's a she.
umbilical cord found its way into German's hands. After his hunter's workshop disbanded, German was alone and unimportant. His only companion was this doll, which he appears to have crafted with love and care. Perhaps this doll's creator
Gehrman made the doll. That's one of my questions. Gehrman made the doll. We know that Janice, aka the doll, is wearing the same clothing as Maria from DLC. More on that later.
had wished for such a friend, albeit in vain. His cord reads, "The great ones that inhabit the nightmare are sympathetic in spirit and often answer when called upon." This third cord summoned the moon presence, a great one which beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream.
Where's
German
that line
got
again?
what he wanted, a companion and a purpose, but he becomes a puppet, endlessly finding and guiding hunters through the dream and out into the world, assumedly under the influences and desires of the moon presence. So, to recap, Mikolash,
Or some say Kozum.
whose character is ever ambitious to ascend and become a great one, used his cord to establish contact. He sacrificed his school of Menses and brought the consequences of that contact upon the world. Willem, ever cautious, used his cord and Rom to mask the effects of that ritual. And German, lonely and lacking purpose, became a puppet to another great one named the Moon Presence. He guides hunters through this dream and out into a few select locations. The hunter's dream ends.
They make Gehrman really sympathetic in this description of lore. Vaati doesn't know about Maria at this point. Yeah, because the DLC came out later, and this is from 8 years ago after just the main game is out. So the two lore videos we're going to watch are both from prior to the DLC. Then we're going to watch some DLC lore videos as well.
Ends when you successfully hunt down Murgo and his nightmare of Menses, suggesting that Menses was the root of the scourge of beasts, and perhaps that the moon presence wanted the child of another great one dead. When you silence Murgo, you return to the workshop on fire.
Yeah.
The dream's purpose is fulfilled.
The coolest fucking moment in the game, maybe. Popping back into the dream, seeing Janice standing there and everything on fire. So freaking cool. Oh, man. Such a cool moment.
You approach Gehrman, host of this hunter's dream, and he tells you that he has the power to free you. If you choose this option, you are unbound from the dream. You lived through the hunt and saw the sunrise over Yharnam. If you reject Gehrman...
Which is a little confusing to me, right? You lived through the hunt and saw the sunrise over Yharnam, but the cycle continues? Isn't it sort of... You're good, yeah. That's fine. Yeah. I don't remember what I was saying.
Gehrman, the moon presence...
Oh yeah, how does daylight come up? How does daylight come up when the cycle is still continuing, right? I want to be here when we do this for Elden Ring one day.
Decides it needs another host for its dream. You become captivated by the moon presence and pledge to watch over the hunter's dream. But there is a third option, ascension.
That's us.
When the conditions are right for a great one to be born, the mother and child can be harvested for an umbilical cord. But
Wait a second. Where is this?
Ascension. When the conditions are right for a great one to be born, the mother...
It can't be This Is a Nightmare. This is an NPC you missed? This is the cord that you missed.
Mother and child can be harvested for an umbilical cord.
Oh, God. You just shoot the...
Great ones lose their children and yearn for a surrogate child instead. A replacement. Mikolash, Willem, Gehrman, they all found umbilical cords somewhere.
She's my favorite NPC and I completely missed her? How did we spend 100 hours in this game and miss your favorite NPC? How is that possible?
In the past and used them for their own needs. But ultimately, each of them was unsuccessful in the contact that they had with the Great Ones. However, the notes of the Bergenwerth scholars contain this information. 3 third chords. Hunt the Great Ones. Hunt the Great Ones.
Think we found that?
If you consume 3 chords, you can resist becoming the Moon Presence's captive.
Beautiful.
Instead, you hunt the Moon Presence, and afterward, you become an infant Great One, living inside the dream the Moon Presence conceived. You manage to ascend, as no one else before you did, and you will lift humanity into its next childhood.
Ascend with Gorb. You did talk to her once, technically? I can't wait to find out who the hell that is. Let's watch the longer video. Oh, that's whetted my appetite in exactly the right way. I'm so excited. Ascend with Gorb. Let's get some deeper details. We've got some questions. Gehrman made Janice. We mostly have the timeline down. That didn't cover the Holy Blades at all, so I'm still a little bit confused how Ludwig and all of that fits in, but that's maybe for a video that understands the DLC too. We understand the Moon Presence. It is a great one. It's kind of... We understand what the Menses ritual does. We understand who Murgo's mom is now. I still don't know what the deal is with all this blood, and I still don't know what's happening in the first 30 seconds of the game.
The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown.
Okay, that's beautiful.
H.P. Lovecraft.
Lovecraft, of course.
Our eyes are yet to open.
Fear the old blood.
These were the words spoken between Master Willem and Lawrence, from the cautious teacher to the ambitious student. Fear what you do not understand. fear the old blood. And so our story begins, as you might have guessed, with blood. Ancient blood. Deep below the city of Yharnam lies the ancient underground labyrinth of Tumeru. You know it as the Chalice Dungeons. The old labyrinth was carved out by the Tumerians, superhuman beings that are said to have discovered a sinister truth. The hunters had another name for the labyrinth. They called it the Tomb of the Gods, for below they found traces of godlike beings named the Great Ones. The Great Ones could function on transcendental planes of thought, meaning they had elevated their consciousness beyond the physical realm. The benefits of operating on this plane are unclear. Perhaps it was in the name of immortality, or perhaps power, as even beyond, the Great Ones could interfere with beings and events in the waking world. Whatever the case, it is clear that some sort of ascension took place.
It does make me a little sad that we actually didn't really hop into the Chalice Dungeons all that far. We did a little bit, but really not that much. I don't have regrets, but I think it was good to keep me moving on the main story, but
there are numerous
there was some lore down there
to some Great Ones being left behind. Of all the strange life forms that reside in the nooks and crannies of the old labyrinth, the slugs are clear signs of the left-behind Great Ones.
They're a grind, though.
One such Great One appears to be abandoned Abritus, a left-behind being who apparently did not ascend with her brethren.
What a fight.
One day, Abritus would be discovered by the humans above, in a crusade that begins with a character named Willem. Master Willem presided over a prestigious place of learning, Bergenwerth. Situated by a tranquil lake and secluded within a gigantic forest, Bergenwerth housed the minds that would change the world. In fact, everything sacred in Yharnam came to be traced back to Bergenwerth, including the most influential characters within our story. Bloodborne's lore is very character-driven, and there are 5 who I'm going to help you
That is well said, Vaati. That is very well said. Bloodborne's lore is character-driven.
Become familiar with. There was Master Willem, Runesmith Carroll, Lawrence, Mikalash, and Gurman. I'll introduce them to you in the order that they become relevant in the story.
Runesmith Carroll, interesting.
As I said, Master Willem was the head of the school at Bergenwerth. The man was obsessed with the truth and believed in pushing the limits of humanity. In almost every dialogue and description, Willem is referred to as Master or Provost, clearly deserving of a great deal of respect. Many would eventually diverge from his tutorage, but few can say that they didn't owe everything to his research, for while Willem presided over Bergenwerth, the scholars there discovered terrific things in the tombs below the city of Yharnam.
Once, a group of young Bergenwerth scholars discovered a holy medium deep within the tomb.
My man.
This led
Julia,
to the founding
hi.
of the Healing Church and the establishment of blood healing.
It's hard to be sure exactly what was found, but we do know it was related to the Great Ones. On the ground floor of Bergenwerth College, we find the Pearl Slug.
Hi, Julia. We're just a couple minutes into the Vaati Vidya lore video. Alfred, my dude.
Remnants of the Great Ones, and at the very...
Oh, this reminds me. I actually found the I found a like Abriatus item, right, chat? That I never actually used. I found an Abriatus item, like a slug-looking item. I never used that, did I? I wonder if I couldn't. I can't remember if I can't used it. If I couldn't use it because I didn't have enough arcane levels or something. Augur of Abriatus. That's right. It's in the showcase. Zach is prepared for today.
Very top of the college, we find the empty phantasm shell, an empty invertebrate shell that is said to be the familiar of a Great One. After this discovery, whatever it was that showed them that the Great Ones existed, the Bergenwerth scholars launched an inquiry into the Great Ones and the Old Blood. For from this point onwards, there is an explosion of lore and history and references to what the scholars found in the tombs below Yharnam. Many of these references come from Runesmith Carroll, the second character of our story. Carroll transcribed the inhuman utterings of the Great Ones into what we now call Carroll runes. Sure. In true Lovecraftian fashion, it is really likely that it's impossible for humans to comprehend the speech of the Great Ones, but Carroll apparently had a knack, a talent, for creating a visual representation of the Great One's words. The hunter who receives this workshop tool can etch Carroll runes into their mind to attain their wondrous strength. Provost Willem would have been proud of Carol's runes, as they do not rely upon blood in any measure.
That is such an interesting line, knowing what we know now. That it's kind of like blood v knowledge, blood versus knowledge. And Willem would be very much a fan of the runes because they don't require, like, sort of poisoning yourself with the blood of the great ones.
This statement is curious. It tells us three things. First, Provost Willem and Carol were close, as Willem would have been proud of him. And second, Willem didn't have a chance to be proud, so it's possible that the two lost contact. And thirdly, and most importantly, Willem would have been proud because the runes did not rely on blood. In other words, Willem did not approve the use of the old blood, the blood found in the Tomb of the Gods. The Metamorphosis rune states, the discovery of blood made their dream of evolution a reality. Metamorphosis and the excesses and
deviation that followed. That tells the whole
was
story.
only the beginning.
Man, this is just close reading with Vaati, and I'm loving it so far. It's just close reading of all of the item descriptions.
Believed in a different path. He believed in attaining more insight, for humanity's eyes had yet to open. The Eye rune states that Master Willem looked to beings from higher planes for guidance, and sought to line his brain with eyes in order to elevate his thoughts.
I can't wait to understand the explanation for insight. Because I know that insight changes whether or not Janice is a doll or a person. I know that it can be used as a currency. I think that's about all that I know.
These descriptions, you should have some idea of the scale of ambition of these characters. With the discovery of beings greater than them came a desire to ascend into godhood, to push humanity into its next stage of evolution. The only question was, how? Blood or insight? And this was a question that split the ranks of the Bergenwerth scholars.
Blood or insight?
It's how we arrived at the cutscene we started at earlier, with Master Willem and Lawrence parting ways.
Master Willem.
Zach's document has a list of every way to gain insight and every effect that it has. Oh my god, Zach is the MVP.
I've come to bid you farewell.
Sorry, let me back that up real quick.
Master Willem, I've come to bid you farewell.
That's Lawrence?
Oh, I know. You think now to betray me.
Yeah, okay.
From this cutscene, we can infer that Lawrence was a high-ranking student of Master Willem, because firstly, Lawrence refers to Willem as Master, and secondly, Willem clearly regards Lawrence highly enough to call this departure a betrayal.
No, but you will never listen.
Lawrence disagrees. He does not see it as betrayal, and here we come to the heart of what their disagreement is about. Essentially, it boils down to the difference between the two resources in the game. Willem believes man requires insight and knowledge to ascend. Lawrence believes in the power of blood. Lawrence attempts to reassure Willem, telling him he will always fear the old blood, but that this fear will not stop him using it.
I tell you, I will not forget our adage.
We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open.
Fear the old blood.
I know Willem is like a Palpatine-like character, but I have more respect for him after this. After the DLC, seeing what Lawrence has become, and after these explanations of Willem encouraging caution and Rom holding back the effects of the ritual, I have more respect for Willem than ever before. We'll see if
Lawrence
that changes.
Leaves the Bergenwerth scholars, presumably with a small group of rebels, and goes on to found the Healing Church. Willem remains at Bergenwerth and attempts to elevate his thoughts to a higher plane. He will return to our story at a later time, so while I tell you of what Lawrence went on to do, imagine Willem here in Bergenwerth, sitting in his rocking chair over the lake, musing on how to acquire insight and elevate his thoughts to a higher plane. Everything Lawrence would come to achieve was based on the knowledge he had come by in Bergenwerth. In retrospect, we clearly see why Willem saw Lawrence's departure as a betrayal. Perhaps Willem himself even planted these ideas in Lawrence's mind. A note in the lecture hall reads, Master Willem was right. Evolution without courage will be the ruin of our race.
Oh, I don't know if I found that. I didn't comprehend it if I did find it. Evolution without courage will be the ruin of our race. That is a very heavy-handed, it's like a big hand on the scale.
Had courage, but it is likely that his courage bordered on arrogance. The Bergenwerth student uniform states, "The Healing Church has its roots in Bergenwerth and naturally borrows heavily from its uniform design. The focus not on knowledge or thought, but on pure pretension would surely bring Master Willem to despair, if only he knew." So Lawrence threw caution to the wind and put his faith in the old blood. Think on human history. Imagine if, in any era, a church was founded that had access to a substance that could cure any illness. Imagine if this church gave it freely to a city, how powerful that city would become, and how powerful the church would become within it. This is exactly what happened in Yharnam. People came far and wide to be treated with the miraculous blood of the gods, and the people of Yharnam put their faith in the healing church. In fact, what happened in Yharnam is eerily similar to what happened in the tombs deep below, where the blood was originally...
So I have a question. Does this video cover, like, Yosefka? Does this video cover Yosefka? I'm majorly curious right now about Yosefka and it has to, right? At least a little bit. I think maybe not. Dang, we'll have to find some Yosefka lore at some point.
Originally found, and as you know, many Chalice dungeons, especially those of Loran, are now overrun by
Although I think I
horrific
mostly
beasts.
understand Yosefka's
The
lore.
lower Loran Chalice states, there are trace remains of medical procedures in parts of ailing Loran. Whether these were attempts to control the scourge of the beasts or the cause of the outbreak is unknown. The ailing Loran Chalice states, the tragedy that struck this ailing land of Loran is said to have its root in the scourge of the beast. Some have made the dreaded extrapolation that Yharnam may be next. Yharnam was...
Because Yosefka's basically doing blood experimentation, right? She's running a, like, fake healing clinic, experimenting on the people who come there, and also probably experimenting on herself? Rhetorical question. Not Yosefka, imposter. Sorry, the person I call Yosefka is the person you believe is Yosefka at the start, right? Is this stream no spoilers? I don't know. I should probably just watch the video. I think we're open to front seating at this point. I think at this point I'm gonna learn it. So yeah, answer however you'd like. Answer with the truth. Real Yosefka killed? Okay. There's a video about it? Okay.
Next. Through overuse of the healing blood, the city would eventually succumb to the scourge of the beast. Until then, though, Lawrence and the healing church managed to grow in power with the miraculous healing properties of their special, yet infected, blood. Yharnam grows to become a city of worship and fear. As you explore throughout the city, you see the influence of the church everywhere. With Yharnam's resources, Lawrence clearly had the power to grow the church beyond what would have been possible at Bergenwerth. All the while, he continued exploring the labyrinth below Yharnam. The Tomb Prospector set reads, attire of the Tomb Prospectors who explore the old labyrinth on behalf of the Healing Church. The Healing Church traces its roots to Bergenwerth and is therefore aware of the ruins' true importance. These ruins contain much more than hunted trinkets. Indeed, they...
Did I know that the Yosefka... Okay, I have lots of questions on this.
The very secrets of the old great ones, sought after by those with the insight to imagine greatness. On top of this, Lawrence split the church into multiple branches, each with a different purpose. There was the choir, the school of Menses, and the workshop. We'll get to these branches as they become appropriate, but the main purpose of the church, at least to the people of Yharnam, was the administration of blood healing. Within the grand cathedral itself lies a note that says, heir to the ritual of blood, purveyor of ministration, Place your hand upon the altar's sacred covering and inscribe Master Lawrence's adage upon your flesh. Blood ministers would have been those who administered the blood healing. How else would the people of Yharnam be so obsessed with blood? In Yharnam, they produced more blood than alcohol, as the former is more intoxicating.
Okay.
However, the ministration of blood was likely a means to an end, for the healing church still intended to commune with the Great Ones, in hopes of ascending humanity to a higher plane. This task was given to the choir, a group who were a part of the healing church. Members of the choir are both the highest-ranking clerics of the healing church and scholars who continued the work that began at Bergenwerth. The eye covering indicates their debt to the teachings of Master Willem, even though their paths diverged. The choir, garbed in black and white, with the familiar eye covering, occupied the upper cathedral ward. It seems to have been their job to research and make contact with the Great Ones.
What a terrifying fucking area this is.
Great
Upper
East
Cathedral
Chalice
Ward.
became the cornerstone of the choir, the elite delegation of the healing church. It was also the first great chalice brought back to the surface since the time of Bergenwerth and allowed the choir to have audience with Ebritus. Ebritus was the left-behind Great One, who came to reside below the Grand Cathedral. We are told that the Grand Cathedral is the birthplace of the healing church's special blood, and if the church were indeed using the blood of the Great Ones, then who's to say it wasn't Ebritus's blood? The Augur of Ebritus
Now
is one
that's
of
an
the
interesting idea. Maybe it's Ebritus's blood, the blood of the Great Ones that the healing church is using. Man, Ebritus also comes out really sympathetic in this. A like abandoned Great One, lonely in the altar of despair underneath the Grand Cathedral.
secret rites of the choir.
I'm starting to feel
used by
bad
the
for
high-ranking
Ebritus.
members of the healing church. Use phantasms, the invertebrates known to be augurs of the Great Ones, to partially summon abandoned Ebritus. One of the few rites that allow one to directly utilize the power of the Great Ones and evidence
Ebritus got
choir
left at
had
the altar.
approached the eldritch truth. The Augur of Ebritus is an arcane method of fighting that was
Ebritus and
actually
Rom were
shared
supposed to
with
get
the
married.
second subsection of the healing church, the School of Menses. The upper echelons of the healing church are formed by the School of Menses, based in the Unseen Village. This brings us to our next important character, Mikolash, who was likely the head of the School of Menses. The School of Menses was, as
Did
the
somebody
name
say
implies,
Mikolash?
Some say cosm.
a place of learning, research, and experimentation for the healing church. Their student set reads, "The healing church has its roots in Bergenwerth and naturally borrows heavily from its uniform design.
Make a bitch with that attack right there.
The school was based below Yharnam, in a place called Yhargul, the Unseen Village. Clearly, the work of Menses was intended to be kept a secret from the people of Yharnam.
I gotta say, the Menses stuff is the Menses school and the Unseen Village stuff is to me where the like true heart of the darkness of this game comes from. Like this whole area and the like, I'm gonna say the word necromantic, but I don't know that that's exactly correct. But like the sort of necromantic parts of this and their headpieces are also so freaking cursed. It's like the true like discovering this part is like, oh, I was seeing the symptoms of the problem in Yharnam, and now I'm seeing the source of the problem. Like this place is where it all is bad. Hi, Evo.
In fact, as time went on, the school increasingly seems to have been working alone, even separately from the healing church itself. The Yhargul attire tells us, the hunters of Yhargul answer to the village's founders, the School of Menses. Hunters in name only, these kidnappers blend into the night wearing this attire. These were not
So does the also speaking of so these hunters are also the most annoying hunters in the game, or at least a couple of them. Do the what I called the bag ladies also work for the School of Menses? The people who kidnap you into the Unseen Village for the first time probably work for the School of Menses, right? They are also kidnappers. Yeah, they look like church workers, but they
true hunters. That title was saved for the third subsection of the Healing Church, the Hunters of the Workshop. These capable warriors of the church appeared as the scourge of the beast began to show in Yharnam. The workshop hunters served under Gurman, the first hunter, who...
So, am I correct in saying the scourge of the beast is a blood-borne infection caused by the School of Menses ritual? Is that a correct sentence? The scourge of beasts is caused by a blood-borne infection from the School of Menses, caused by the School of Menses ritual? No? Okay. What part of that is not correct? I would rephrase that in a way that is correct. Because I'm still trying to piece together the central, like, why are people becoming infected? Or, like, what's going on there? Hi, K-Bell. How's it going? Just got home? How's it going? Because that's, like, it's such a basic question, but it's, like, one of the... I'm feeling like I'm getting closer, but maybe I'm still missing something. The Scourge of Beasts is caused by the blood. Use of the blood slowly turns you into a beast. So it's just the Healing Church's use of the blood, period. Okay. It's not the ritual itself which is doing it. It's just using the blood at all, period, causes the infection. It's never meant to be consumed, and they did anyways. Okay. That's simpler and also makes perfect sense.
You're all familiar with. The hunter attire
Cool.
Reed served under Gurman, the first hunter, who you're all familiar with. The hunter attire reads, one of the standard articles of hunter attire fashioned at the workshop, a fine piece of hunter attire that provides stable defense to anyone facing Yharnam's beastly
Cable,
threat.
it's so fucking hot
Allows
outside.
one to stalk beasts unannounced by cover of night. It's possible the unannounced part of that sentence is to do with killing beasts without them noticing you, but it could also be...
This says unannounced. Sorry, I keep pausing. I do have to point out that I scrolled really quickly through the document that Zach sent me today before stream, and I do know that one of the pages says parrying is really good or something like that, and the other one says it is possible to sneak in this game. So I can't wait to find out how that works. You can sneak in this game.
Because the workshop was a secret institution. The original workshop is located in a very hard to find part of Cathedral Ward, and think about it, you don't want the townsfolk believing that the blood is turning them into beasts.
Can't wait to
When
find that out.
information is floating
You
around,
can jump?
you want to avoid panic at all costs. So the hunters hunted beasts under the cover of night, but the hunters and the beastly scourge couldn't stay a secret forever.
Leave the hunting
In
of
what
hunters.
would come to be called Old Yharnam, a new disease appeared. It was called ashen blood. I call it a disease, but the small medicinal tablets used to treat it actually counteract poison. A tablet used to treat ashen blood, the baffling sickness that ravaged Old Yharnam long ago. These tablets only provide...
Is this the same infection we were just talking about? Ashen blood? Is this the name of the bloodborne infection that we're talking about? Different, okay.
short-term relief. The ashen blood ailment eventually triggered the spread of the beastly scourge. Think about that. We know that the old blood heals every illness. We know that the old blood causes the beastly scourge. And we now know that the ashen blood caused the beastly scourge to spread. In short, it seems like people were infected with the ashen blood, and the medicine that they had only provided short-term relief, and they were forced to imbibe the old blood instead. It's even possible that the Healing Church used this ashen blood to gain power, swooping in with this miracle.
They cured one infection with another infection. Holy shit. That's really cool. The ashen blood was an infection. The Healing Church said, we have a cure, which gave you a different infection. That's wild.
Wait, this isn't Minecraft. I have the...
Hi, Tom. How's it going? Thanks for the 10 bits. How's it going, dude?
Miracle cure and liberating the people from
Sorry,
the
we're in the
ashen
middle of a
blood
lore thing.
disease. Since ashen blood
You're good,
seems
you're good.
poisonous in nature, perhaps the church even
How's it going, man?
poisoned the populace just for that excuse to use the old blood. Because that excuse to get the populace to believe in you, that would have been so powerful. But whatever the case, the beastly scourge was triggered overwhelmingly in Old Yharnam, we know that much, to the point where they actually had to burn it down and cordon off Old Yharnam from the rest of the city.
No worries,
The red
dude.
moon hangs low, and beasts rule the streets. Are we left no other choice than to burn it all to cinders? With this, the hunt became known to all. Perhaps the church feared an uprising from the people of Yharnam, for a note in central Yharnam reads, "When the hunt began, the healing church left us, blocking the great bridge to Cathedral Ward as Old Yharnam burned to the ground that moonlit night." As a result, Gurman's workshop was sealed and closed. With the scourge of the beast known to all, perhaps there was no need for secrecy anymore. The Saw Hunter badge.
So the workshop itself closes as a result of that too. The workshop is closed because there is no reason for secrecy at that point. Or at least maybe one reason is there's no reason for secrecy. Be lurking for today? I love it. Tub, have you been on the Minecraft server recently? Have you been playing?
Comes to read, badge crafted long ago at the workshop attests to one's prowess as a hunter of beasts. The workshop is gone, and no group recognizes this meaningless badge. At this point, the church retreats. They block themselves off in Upper Cathedral Ward and come up with a new strategy for dealing with the scourge of the beast.
I have to ask another unrelated question. Is this outfit that the character has been wearing the whole time an outfit that I have? I don't recognize this outfit. Is this from that NPC that I did not meet? I really like the red and the like lace or like the edges. You may not have that. I forgot it in the showcase. It's from Canehurst. I might have it. I didn't get it. I missed it. Okay. I don't have it. Never mind.
Off in
It's
Upper
good.
Cathedral Ward and come up with a new strategy for dealing with the scourge of the
It
beasts that is
feels very
spreading throughout
Canehurst.
Yharnam. Eventually, the workshop hunters would disband, and the church founded the Church Hunter Workshop in its place. Ludwig was the chief hunter of the Healing Church, which consisted of hunters garbed in black and white. The Black Church Hunter attire reads, "Most Healing Church hunters are elementary doctors who understand the importance of early prevention of the scourge, achieved by disposing of victims, even potential victims, before signs of..."
Holy cow, that's so menacing. I never pieced together how menacing that is. Disposing of victims and even potential victims before signs of sickness manifest themselves. That is dark. There's preventative medicine, there's preventative care, and then there's preventative care. And Ludwig was on that preventative care.
sickness manifest themselves. Their black attire is synonymous with fear and that peculiar Yharnam madness. The Black Church Hunter's job was clear. Remove any sign of the scourge of the beast, even if it hasn't manifested itself yet.
A blade.
The fear that it inspired in the citizens shows. Most in Upper Cathedral Ward are deathly afraid of the church. The White Church Hunter's jobs were...
Is that dialogue that you get if you're wearing the Black Church Hunter's garb? We have such gratitude for the church. Is that... Interesting. If you wear the... Oh, they're saying I'm grateful, but it's grateful from fear. That's always there, I'm pretty sure? Okay, never mind then.
a bit different. These doctors are superior
Preventative care. Care was indeed prevented.
to the Black White Church Hunters' jobs were a bit different. These doctors are superiors to the Black Preventative Hunters and specialists in experimentally backed blood ministration and the scourge of the beast. They believe that medicine is not a means of treatment, but rather a method of research, and that some knowledge can only be attained by exposing oneself to sickness. Their experimentation might explain the monstrously large church giants who would have been particularly useful in the fight against the beasts. Ludwig's greatsword exhibits several departures from the workshop's design, suggesting that the church anticipated much larger, inhuman beasts. On top of this, Ludwig took a much more overt approach to beast hunting. Nightly, he would embark upon central Yharnam, across the Great Bridge, to fight back against the beasts. But he was not alone. The population of central Yharnam joined the hunt as well, swelling the ranks of the hunters. Ludwig, the first hunter of the Healing Church, once recruited Yharnamites to serve as hunters.
I wonder where that piece of dialogue is from. That piece of lore is from. Required Yharnamites to serve as hunters?
This hunter's attire was made for new recruits and has excellent straightforward defense, but not nearly enough to allow an ordinary man to stand any real chance against the beasts. It sounds like a very clever move.
I'm loving this part. Holy shit. Ludwig recruited normal-ass people to fight off beasts. Those people had no chance.
As it probably stopped the populace blaming the church and likely formed more of a us versus them mentality. Meanwhile, in Bergenwerth, Master Willem had an epiphany. We are thinking on the basest of planes. What we need are more eyes. Willem took this very literally. The remaining students of Bergenwerth appear to have been transformed into multi-eyed, fly-like creatures, and more importantly, Willem himself found an umbilical cord of a great one, which was a very significant and powerful artifact. Provost Willem sought the cord in order to elevate his being and thoughts to those of a great one by lining his brain with eyes, the only choice he knew if man were ever to match their greatness. Used to gain insight, and, so they say, eyes on the inside, although no one remembers what that truly entails. It's difficult to know exactly how Willem came across or created.
I can't wait to figure this out from Zach's document. I have this sneaking suspicion, and I might be wrong. I kind of feel like insight is sort of the like myth of useful knowledge. Rather than actual useful knowledge, it kind of feels like insight might be a sort of addiction of its own kind. I don't know. I can't wait to see. Zach said in the document I have like a list of the benefits from insight. I can't wait to see if it's like actually getting you closer to the capital T truth, or if it's like sort of removing you from the truth, you know? Because I can imagine a sort of fucked up Soulsborne type of story where there are these scholars and they're getting insight and they're lining their brains with eyes. And the thing that they are getting, and the thing that they're doing is escaping this world, or like not actually getting any closer to the truth. The whole madness versus knowledge bit. Yeah.
Created an umbilical cord, so we'll have to go into that in another video.
Can we spoil a bit about insight? I think we're going to cover it here at a later part, so maybe just wait till then.
Just know that he has one for now. When we encounter Willem, he directs us to the Great Lake. The power of great bodies of water is actually referenced in a few runes. Great volumes of water serve as a bulwark guarding sleep, and an augur of the eldritch truth. Overcome this hindrance and seek what is yours. The lake and what lies within it hides the truth. Rom, the Bergenwerth spider, lies within, and there's a lot we don't know about her, but I'll tell you what we do know. The Bergenwerth spider hides all manner of rituals and keeps our lost master from us, a terrible shame. The spider is certain to reveal nothing, for true enlightenment need not be shared. I believe this is what the vacuous part of Rom's name refers to. This creature is somehow hiding the true nature of the world, and when you defeat it, you don't need insight to see the world for what it truly is. The night moves forward, the blood moon descends, and after killing Rom, we are finally granted access to what remains of Yahar'gul, home of Mikolash and his school of Menses.
So that makes Rom seem slightly less sympathetic. The thing that Rom is doing is sort of cloaking reality from you, is one way of interpreting it there. It might be a well-intentioned cloaking, but you are still not... Rom is friend-shaped? Rom is something shaped. Rom's a spider. I never had any sympathy. Vodka's just got out the boot and started stomping.
The school of Menses appears to have grown apart from the healing church.
This is the fisting
and
skeleton.
The choir. There is little information on Mikolash and his school, but we can prove that there was a split. Firstly, Mikolash uses the Augur of Abritus, a secret rite of the choir shared among the high-ranking members of the healing church. This suggests he was trusted with this information and was once a sane member of the church. To prove that there was a split between the healing church's choir and the school.
Carly says, I looked up Rom fan art the day you did that fight, and I've been in love ever since. Hold up. Let me do a quick little Google. That's not Rom. That's something else. Rom the vacuous spider. I'm going to Google it off screen real quick so that I don't have to see if anything is particularly terrible. or inappropriate. I mean, that's pretty cute. Make sure safe search is on, exactly. I like that one. Friend-shaped? Maybe a little bit friend-shaped. A little bit friend-shaped. Friend-shaped.
We note clear signs of distrust and fighting between the groups. Imprisoned inside Yahar'gul is the corpse of a member of the choir. And inside the nightmare of Menses, we find who the official guide calls Edgar, choir intelligence. Clearly, the choir was...
Okay, what? I looked away for 2 seconds.
Is the corpse of a member of the choir. And inside the nightmare of Menses, we find who...
We find this person? Do we? Did I?
The official guide calls Edgar, choir intelligence. Clearly, the choir was suspicious of what was going on in Yahar'gul with the school of Menses, and based on what...
The enemy? Did I fight that enemy? I did find them? Okay. You spoon to wound him? Spun to one? Spin to win? 3 times he exploded? Okay, great. Never mind.
We find there, in Yahar'gul, it seems the choir had good reason to be. The school of Menses were attempting to commune with the Great Ones, and they succeeded. As Willem did, they found an umbilical cord. We find 4 cords in the game that allow contact with the Great Ones, and Mikolash had one.
So he does say, Vaati does say there's 4 chords in this video.
Menses audience with Murgo, but resulted in the stillbirth of their brains. As we know, most Great Ones reside in the Nightmare Realm, and whatever ritual they performed with this cord ripped Menses and its students into a nightmare. That's why you find the lecture hall in the nightmare, and that's why there's hundreds of dead students throughout Yahar'gul, all wearing the cage that appears to have delivered them to their harrowing nightmare. Mikolash's corpse provides a gateway into the nightmare, and we find him here, clearly insane, wandering the halls.
Some say cosm.
Mikolash believes that it's possible to ascend towards becoming a Great One, citing Rom as his example. Rom, however, is not fully developed, rather she has the blood of their kin. And let's just go back to Rom for a second. When you defeat Rom, Queen Yharnam appears. She's a Tremere...
I forgot about that. Oh, I knew I'd seen her somewhere before. Before Murgo's wet nurse boss, the room. I forgot that she was here.
Aryan woman who has clearly suffered a childbirth gone horribly wrong. She is linked to the nightmare of men.
Does she say anything in that moment? Front seat question. After you defeat Rom, she's there in the water. Does she say anything? Just cries? Okay. I think around that point, though, is when I started to think about... I started to get the lore about killing a kid or calming a kid. But that's... Oh, I don't even know if that's related to this necessarily. That might be related to that NPC.
To the ritual that Rom was hiding, and she appears in this nightmare, looking up towards Murgo's loft, where Murgo and his wet nurse reside. Queen Yharnam hails from the Tumerian civilization that was in power long ago,
Queen
and she
Yharnam
was blessed
lore.
with a child of the Great Ones. From the way she appears outside Murgo's loft, it is clear that her consciousness, her spirit, was pulled into this nightmare as well. Even when you encounter Queen Yharnam's real self in the Tumerian tombs, the baby Murgo screams whenever you hit her, and even when you kill Yharnam in the tombs, it is clear that she is not actually dead, but her horrific consciousness is only asleep. And
Yharnam Stone. Queen lies dead, her horrific consciousness is only asleep, and stirs in unsettling motions.
it stirs in unsettling motions. Her consciousness seems to be showing up here in the nightmare, completely separate from her physical form. The same thing is happening with you, with Mikolash, with the Great Ones in the nightmare with you. You all exist in this nightmare that Menses created. So your next question is, which Great One impregnated Yharnam with Murgo all those years ago? I believe it is formless Erden. The Great One Erden, lacking form, exists only in voice. To cite the fastest evidence to present, there's nothing in the cradle after you defeat Murgo, and Murgo himself, the child, has no form. Also, his cries are heard throughout your adventure. He exists everywhere. Additionally, Murgo's wet nurse has no form under those robes.
Oh my god. Playing the music box while in this fight is such a genius idea. Does it actually do anything?
And also, the women that are impregnated when this blood moon descends are all related to Erden, but
That's such a good idea. I walked around with the music box for so long, trying it at different points, and it didn't do anything.
we'll get to that in another video. When you defeat Murgo's wet nurse, you get a message unlike any other that you've received thus far. Instead of prey slaughtered, you get nightmare slain. You defeated a true Great One that's elevated its consciousness to the nightmare realm, and the game is nearing its end. However, all of this should make you think.
It works on
The
Gaston.
nightmare of Menses isn't the only dream world I've set foot in, is it? This entire time, I've actually been journeying out from the hunter's dream, guided by lanterns that led me to Murgo and her wet nurse, all of which is made possible by German and his doll. Travel to the hunter's workshop in the waking world and seek the truth. Every Great One loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate. The third umbilical cord precipitated the encounter with the pale moon, which beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream. Next to the
You know what the biggest question on my mind is? What the fuck is the pale blood? We're 26 minutes into this video, with 5 minutes left. We also watched the other video. I don't think I've seen a single reference to pale blood with a capital P.
cord is the unanimated doll. Take a head.
That's the big one now. What the fuck is the pale blood? Nobody knows? Actually, nobody knows? Or
Hairpin from this real doll and then pass it
serious? No one knows? No one knows what the pale blood is? Pale blood is the one thing that people still don't know much about. It's like the first thing they tell you to do. Seek the pale blood. Transcend the hunt. No one knows? There are theories, but we have no definitive answer. I've got a suspicion. Hi, Chamos. I've got a suspicion. Hi, Panda. I've got Chinese food. Oh, you're making me hungry.
along to the doll in the dream. When you give her the hairpin, she sheds a single tear, which reads, "Created from the shining silver doll tear, this blood gem is a quiet yet unfaltering friend that continually restores HP, the life essence of a hunter. Perhaps this doll's creator had wished for such a friend, albeit in vain."
Lord.
It's clear that German called upon the Great Ones using an umbilical cord, similar to the manner in which Mikolash did. The Great Ones that inhabit the nightmare are sympathetic in spirit and often answer when called upon. German, lonely and lacking purpose after the church had no more need for his workshop, must have called upon the Great Ones. A Great One responded, the pale moon presence, and imprisoned German within the dream. For while German sleeps, he utters this rare piece of dialogue that clearly shows he does not want to be here.
Yeah. This is the troubled moment.
Lawrence, Master Willem.
This is so important because this reveals Gehrman's true... Oh man, this line is so important now. Damn. Important info. That note about the pale blood was written by your own character. It's meant to say so in game, but the translation messed that up. You didn't hear this one? I think we did. I think we heard it. Yeah. During a DLC stream. We heard it very near the end. I did not piece it together as... I didn't have the context from today where like Lawrence and Lawrence and Willem went in such different directions. Oh man.
Somebody, help me. Unshackle me, please. Anybody. I've had enough of this dream.
Yeah, I have it written down. It is from the DLC stream because I have written down in the on my DLC notes the night blocks all sight. Germon's suffering eased? Question mark. The night blocks all sight.
The night blocks all sight.
I think it's the first time I thought maybe we have to ease his suffering.
Please.
So for what purpose was the dream conceived? Well, the doll tells us that countless hunters have passed through here, and all of the...
What's up with the orphan? That's the only Bloodborne thing I know. I'll tell you what, we're not going to find out in the next 2 minutes of this video, but we are going to watch a DLC video later that I hope explains it, because the orphan is also a big old question mark in my mind.
graves tell us that as well, And Eileen and Jura both have dialogue that is testament to that fact. They talk about how they've been through this dream before as well. So why are hunters being sent through this dream, unable to pass away, just forced to go out into the world and kill beasts? It becomes clearer when you kill Murgo's wet nurse. You return to the hunter's workshop burning down, the dream's purpose fulfilled. Ergo, the purpose of your dream and your hunt appears to have been to slay a great one. 3 endings are presented to you. The first. Gurman offers you a way out of the dream. He asks you to accept your death, for if you...
So, am I correct in saying that if you get to this point, you have only slain one great one? Is it saying you slay one great one? No, because we kill a Briatis. Wait. Is that what it's saying? Once you kill a Briatis, you come here, end the fire? Unless you did the DLC, which will change things. Of course. That makes sense. Is a Briatis the great one you have slain when you get here and things go on fire? I'm still a little bit confused about Murgo and Murgo's wet nurse. Because she's optional. Good point. Also amygdala. Okay, the thing with blades that looks a little bit like a crow. That is the wet nurse, right? Murgo is invisible. The wet nurse is what we killed. We didn't actually kill Murgo, right? Yeah, okay. Okay. So Gehrman's goal was kind of for us to, okay.
If you do, then you'll awaken in the waking world of Yharnam, and your consciousness will be no longer linked to the...
Murgo does die afterwards. That's a great point. You could assume Murgo might die afterwards.
Dream. The trophy for this ending reads, "You lived through the hunt and saw another day." The second option is to reject Gurman. He suggests that to do so must be a decision caused by madness.
We're getting there, baby.
And he pits his will against
We're
yours
getting there.
to forcibly
Understanding.
remove you from the dream. All the while, he entreats you to accept your death and be freed from this dream. If you overpower...
Gehrman, didn't you know? There's one person in this game who gets to hunt hunters. And it's not you. It's Eileen. Back off.
Power Gurman, we meet with the Moon Presence, the being that appears to have conceived this nightmare. Just like the nightmare Murgo conceived, it embraces you, and in the cutscene to follow, we see ourselves performing the same role that Gurman did, hosting the dream, likely a slave to the Moon Presence, or perhaps its surrogate child, guiding hunters throughout this dream in an effort to slay other great ones. The trophy for this ending reads, "Captivated by the Moon Presence, you pledge to watch over the hunter's dream." There's one key thing you need to remember. The Great Ones are a race, but they're a race unlike any other. Each Great One is entirely unique, and they do not necessarily work together. In fact, from the existence of the dream, I'm almost inclined to believe that the Moon Presence is hostile towards other Great Ones. In the third and final ending, you consume 3 umbilical cords and resist the will of the Moon Presence.
I know, right,
You
Zach?
overpower it, and in the cutscene to follow, the doll coddles the being you have become. You have ascended, truly, as few have before you. The trophy description states, "You became an infant Great One, lifting humanity into its next childhood." So after the end of all this, you probably still have questions.
Slug Life?
What is pale blood?
Slug
Why does
Life?
the Moon Presence guide hunters towards killing beasts and Great Ones? Which ending is the good ending? For all
Slug
this
Life?
and more, you need to be subscribed to the channel. I'll have another video out soon.
Shout out
analysing
to
the endings,
Vaati.
and from here on out, the channel should split into 3 main parts. There's going to be the lore hunting series, where we focus on one aspect of the lore and really figure it out.
Shout out to Vaati Vidya for the
Which is
incredible lore
my favorite
videos.
series.
I
It's a series where I tell the
understand.
story of a character within Bloodborne's universe.
I
And there's going to be
understand.
things you
I think.
missed, which are short,
I still have a million questions, but I mostly understand. I have a lot of my questions answered. I have the timeline understood. I have the different factions understood. I understand the roles of the Great Ones versus the Hunters. You understanding nothing? Probably don't understand anything. Let's restart the game from the start. I do still have some questions, but we gained a lot of insight there. I would say progress count as at least 1 or 2 for that. Shout out to Vaati for that video. That was a lot of fun. Oh, buddy. And I think the key thing that happened is I finally understand the actual infection, or the 2 infections, the ashen blood and the infection that gives Bloodborne its name. What's the deal with all this blood? I think I can answer that question. I think I can do it. What's the deal with all this blood? Let's go.